The rain had been falling for hours, a steady, relentless rhythm that felt as if the sky itself was grieving with her. She sat on the cold bench outside the hospital, drenched, trembling, and numb, staring at the building where her entire world had just changed. Her hands were clenched so tightly that her nails cut into her skin, but she did. To loosen them, pain on the outside felt easier than what was happening inside. She didn't cry. Not because she was strong, but because she had run out of tears days ago. Anyone passing by would think she was just another storm-soaked stranger, but inside her, a storm far more violent was raging, tearing apart everything she once believed she could handle. And then, through that storm, someone quietly sat beside her, not to ask anything, not to judge, not even to speak, just to be there. And sometimes that is all it takes for a life to start stitching itself back together again. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in how small actions can change someone's life, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly helps stories like this reach more hearts. Her name was Aamira, a woman once full of laughter and warm energy, someone who made others feel lighter just by being in the same room. But life had thrown punches one after another until she could no longer stand. She had lost her mother only 10 days ago, after months of watching her fade in a hospital bed. She had lost her job just 2 weeks before that. Friends who once claimed they would never leave had slowly disappeared when her sadness became inconvenient. And now, sitting outside the same hospital where she had spent every night praying for a miracle, that never came. She looked as if the world had drained every last drop of color from her life. The bench she sat on had become her escape and her punishment, the place where she came to be alone, to let the silence consume her, because silence was still kinder than the words she heard in her head. The rain painted the entire scene in a soft blur, the glowing hospital windows, the wet pavement reflecting the dim street light, the trees shivering in the wind. Aamira barely noticed any of it. Her breathing was slow and heavy, like each inhale was borrowed and each exhale was a surrender. She was unaware of how long she had been sitting there until she felt the bench shift gently as someone sat down beside her. For a moment, she didn't react. She assumed it was someone waiting for a taxi or a visiting relative, but then she glanced out of the corner of her eye and saw an older man, perhaps in his late 50s, wearing a simple gray sweater, his hair wet from the rain. He didn't look at her. He didn't say anything. He just sat still, quiet, almost peaceful, like someone who understood that words were unnecessary. At first, she felt uncomfortable. Why was he sitting here, when there were so many empty benches nearby? But after a minute, she felt something strange. The presence of another person was grounding her, pulling her back from the edge of the thoughts that had been swallowing her whole. She didn't know why it helped. Maybe because he wasn't trying to fix anything. Maybe because he didn't expect anything from her. Maybe because he simply existed next to her without demanding that she be okay. The rain eventually softened into a light drizzle, and Aamira felt her shoulders relax for the first time in days. Memories of her mother, a woman with soft eyes and an even softer voice, flooded her mind. She remembered holding her mother's hand, promising she would be fine, even though she wasn't sure she believed it. She remembered the last goodbye, the machine slowing, her mother's fingers gently slipping away from hers. She remembered walking out of the hospital, feeling like a shell of who she used to be. The man beside her finally breathed a long sigh, the kind that felt like he carried years of pain behind it. Though he still said nothing, she sensed something familiar in that sigh, something that matched the heaviness she carried. She didn't know his story, but she realized he wasn't there by accident. People who understood pain had a way of finding each other even in silence. Minutes stretched into an hour. The drizzle stopped completely. Cars passed by occasionally, their headlights sweeping across the wet ground. The night grew colder, and a soft breeze rustled through the leaves. Aamira, for the first time in a long time, felt not okay, but not alone. And that mattered more than she expected. The man eventually stood up, his movements slow but steady. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper, placing it gently beside her on the bench. Then, without a word, he walked away. She stared at the paper for a moment, hesitant to open it, unsure if she even wanted to know what it said. But curiosity, and maybe a tiny flicker of hope, nudged her. She unfolded it with trembling hands. In simple handwriting it read, "I lost someone too. Sitting together helped me once. I hope tonight it helped you even a little. Don't carry your pain alone." Her breath caught. Her chest tightened, not with pain this time, but with something softer, something that reminded her she still had the capacity to feel warmth. She clutched the note to her heart as tears finally returned, flowing freely, cleansing her like the rain that had drenched her earlier. She cried for her mother, for her loneliness, for the version of herself she missed. But she also cried because a stranger had reminded her that healing did not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it came in moments of quiet presence. Over the next few days, she found herself going back to that same bench. Even though the man did not return, his silent gesture stayed with her. She began noticing things she hadn't before: the gentle kindness of nurses holding the hand of worried families, the tired smile of a security guard greeting everyone with respect, the way people comforted each other even in moments of fear. Slowly, the world didn't feel as harsh. Slowly, her heart didn't feel as heavy. Sitting on that bench became a ritual of reflection instead of despair. She allowed herself to feel, to breathe, to grieve without drowning. She started taking small steps, updating her CV, calling an old friend, going for short walks, eating meals at a normal time, each action tiny but each one a victory. And though she still missed her mother deeply, she found strength in knowing that her mother would never have wanted her to break under the weight of loss. She began to remember not just the hospital days but the laughter, the warmth, the memories filled with love. Her grief softened, not disappeared, but softened like a wound slowly closing. Weeks passed, and life slowly began finding its rhythm again. She found a new job at a community center, a place where she could help others who were struggling. She discovered that healing wasn't something that happened all at once, but something that happened in waves, some gentle, some overwhelming, but all necessary. And every time she passed the hospital bench, she placed a flower there. Not for the man, not for herself, but for anyone who needed the reminder that they weren't alone. Near the end of one long day at work, she sat again on that same bench, watching the sunset paint the sky with soft pink and gold. She held the crumpled note in her hand, now worn from being folded and unfolded countless times. She whispered a thank you into the breeze, not knowing if the man would ever hear it, but hoping the universe would carry it to him in some way. Kindness, she had learned, didn't need recognition. It only needed to exist. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it, and comment below. Your support helps spread these emotional stories to others who may need them. Before you go, comment one thing you believe every hurting person deserves to hear.